Order. The clerk will now proceed to read the order of the day.
Item 1, resumption of debate on the budget statement. A motion standing in the name of the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance.
The question is that Parliament approves the financial policy of the government for the financial year 1st April 2026 to 31st March 2027. Mr. Saktiandi Supaat.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to begin by expressing my support for the broad thrust of Budget 2026 delivered by Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. This budget reflects fiscal discipline, strategic foresight, and a continued commitment to strengthen our social compact in a more uncertain and fragmented world. It balances long-term investment with immediate support for Singaporeans and businesses. At the same time, in a mature economy like ours, the central question is no longer simply GDP growth. What matters is whether growth translates into mobility, fairness, and confidence across generations. Increasingly, confidence means this. First, can I sustain my earning power? Can my children do better than me? And can I retire with dignity? I will address this life cycle economic security of Singaporeans in 3 parts today. But Mr. Speaker, however, it is important to note that we are navigating a changed and uncertain world. Geopolitical shifts are reshaping global trade and weakening the international order we have long relied on. At the same time, technological advances, particularly in AI, will profoundly reshape how we work, learn, and live. It is therefore heartening that the government is taking decisive steps to invest for the long term. We see this clearly in the budget, with development expenditure rising faster than operating revenue and expenditure. This reflects the deliberate choice to strengthen long-term capabilities. But this also raises an important point. Some of my residents in Toa Payoh have asked me, why are there not more goodies, especially when we had a budget surplus of $15.1 billion in 2025? Mr. Speaker, this is an understandable question. But the surplus reflects, in part, the volatility of the global environment. Unexpected developments, whether geopolitical tensions or trade disruptions, can quickly affect growth and revenue. While we performed better than expected in 2025, as our economy grew 5% beyond our expectations, and multinational companies here did well and paid higher than expected corporate income tax, we cannot assume that such conditions will persist. In fact, latest developments in the past week out of the US, with the new prevailing 15% global tariff and the risk of war in the Middle East, adds to unanticipated volatility. Beyond the immediate tariff impact, the deeper concern is the increasing unpredictability of global trade rules and how it could eventually impact global inflation, growth, and business sentiment going forward. Globally, beyond the uncertainty of potential refunds, companies must now navigate the specific country and sector-specific incidences of new import duties. For Singapore, there is still risk of the semiconductor and pharmaceutical sectors being imposed tariffs. So it is therefore prudent that we channel today's windfall towards strengthening resilience for tomorrow, rather than locking in spending that may not be sustainable. We must also not make the mistake of assuming that the profit cycles will always remain in Singapore's favor. Mr. Speaker, at the same time, we must remain grounded in the realities faced by Singaporeans. I'm certain our PAP government MPs are aware of the pain points on the ground, and they will be sharing their views and concerns in this budget debate today and over the next few days. In preparing for this debate, the GPC for Finance and Trade and Industry have engaged widely through, for example, the PAP Policy Forum, resource panel discussions, and industry engagements. I would like to thank the PAP Policy Forum team for facilitating these engagements, which included more than 100 participants in focus groups and over 1,000 survey respondents. The message is clear. Cost of living remains the top concern. Healthcare affordability, job security, and retirement adequacy follow closely behind. From my ground engagements, additional concerns have surfaced. Rising business costs for SMEs, higher foreign manpower costs, housing affordability for future and current generations. AI-related job anxieties for all ages, including young job seekers, and dealing with carbon transition costs. And pressures from an aging population. As our society ages and in general live longer, concerns about a comfortable life as one gets older comes with accompanying concerns. Singaporeans are not only concerned about growth in the abstract, they are concerned about whether growth translates into real improvements in purchasing power and economic activity. Mr. Speaker, in Malay, please. Tuan Speaker, kos sara hidup telah meningkat dengan ketara dalam tempoh 5 tahun kebelakangan ini. Bukan sahaja disebabkan oleh COVID-19, tetapi juga akibat gangguan rantaian bekalan global serta kecenderungan ke arah kepentingan nasional yang lebih sempit. Pemimpin perniagaan kecil optimis dan berhati-hati, namun masih berdepan tekanan kos yang bersifat struktur, peningkatan kos tenaga kerja, serta manfaat pertumbuhan yang tidak seimbang. Walaupun faktor-faktor ini sebahagiannya bersifat luaran, ia tidak memberi kelegaan kepada rakyat biasa. Hakikatnya, setiap dolar kini memberikan nilai yang semakin berkurangan. Kebimbangan ini juga berkait rapat dengan isu kecukupan persaraan yang akan saya sentuh sebentar lagi. Jika kita ingin memastikan rakyat Singapura dapat bersara dengan keyakinan, kita perlu menangani tekanan kos sara hidup secara lebih struktur. Salah satu perbelanjaan utama bagi isi rumah dan pesara ialah makanan. Sebagai contoh yang jelas, harga mi siam atau mi soto telah meningkat daripada sekitar $2 kepada RM2.50 dan kini sekitar $4 di beberapa tempat. Ini merupakan peningkatan antara 50% hingga 100% dalam tempoh kurang daripada 10 tahun. Ini memberi tekanan langsung kepada isi rumah, terutamanya golongan berpendapatan rendah dan pesara. Dalam sektor makanan dan minuman, adalah wajar untuk kita memperkukuhkan ketelusan dalam pengaturan sewaan serta menilai amalan penyewaan semula agar tidak menyumbang kepada kenaikan harga makanan secara tidak wajar. Selain itu, kos penjagaan kesihatan kekal sebagai satu kebimbangan utama. Dalam jangka panjang, kita perlu memastikan sistem penjagaan kesihatan kekal dimampui dan inklusif. Namun demikian, kita juga harus mengiktiraf usaha pemerintah. Seperti yang telah kita lihat dalam tempoh 5 tahun lalu, pemerintah tidak teragak-agak untuk menyediakan pakej bantuan yang komprehensif seperti penampaan GST bagi mengurangkan kesan kepada rakyat Singapura, khususnya golongan berpendapatan rendah. Dari segi struktur, kita juga telah memperkukuh skim seperti MediShield, memperkenalkan skim bantuan pencari kerja, serta menjadikan skim voucher GST sebagai satu ciri tetap demi memberi ketenangan kepada isi rumah yang memerlukan bantuan dalam perbelanjaan mereka. Selain sokongan struktur, Belanjawan 2026 turut meneruskan pendekatan menyediakan bantuan sementara secara sekali beri dalam bentuk bayaran kos sara hidup, voucher CDC serta rebat utility apabila kedudukan fiskal membolehkan kita berbuat demikian. Mr. Speaker, I will now continue in English. Mr. Speaker, the MOF occasional paper shows that Singapore has made real progress. The recent MOF occasional paper. Real incomes have grown across deciles, and after taxes and transfers, inequality has declined. These are important achievements. But two structural realities remain. Wealth inequality is higher than income inequality, and relative mobility may moderate as our economy matures. This is not a crisis, but it is a structural signal. If we take a longer-term view, including insights from economists like Thomas Piketty, the challenge is that wealth compounds faster than wages. And wealth generates optionality, the ability to take risks, invest in education, support transitions, and access opportunities. Over time, opportunity can become linked to starting point. Mr. Speaker, we must therefore continue strengthening start line equality. We have made good progress through schemes such as Kickstart and Comlink Plus. The next step is to sharpen outcomes. We can consider publishing clearer mobility indicators such as school readiness, attendance, and literacy. Publishing, I mean. We should also strengthen our efforts in terms of access for lower-income youth through internships, mentoring, and enrichment opportunities. Strengthening, I mean. We already have done so. But because mobility is not only about grades, it is about access. Mr. Speaker, if wealth compounding is structural, we must broaden capital participation. The new CPF Life investment scheme mentioned in Budget 2026 is a step in the right direction. As this is rolled out, it will be important to ensure, first, simplicity, strong default options, second, third, low fees, and fourth, safeguards against behavioral risks. Mr. Speaker, we already have strong support across the life cycle, from the child development account to EduSave and the post-secondary education account, as well as Skills Future. These are important foundations. The next step is whether we can connect and strengthen them within a more explicit life cycle mobility framework with a modest asset building element that compounds over time. Other countries have explored similar approaches. For example, Canada's education savings system uses government top-ups, including targeted support for lower-income families, to help build education assets over time. This principle is clear: to broaden access to compounding, while keeping support progressive and fiscally disciplined. In our context, we can consider a Singapore Opportunity Account framework, a modest starting stake, a progressive top-ups for low-income households, a safe, low-cost investment structure, and restricted users, such as education, skills upgrading, housing support, enhancements, or CPF top-ups. This is not redistribution. It is structured participation in asset building. Let me illustrate briefly. A student from a lower-income household may have the ability to pursue a specialized course or industry attachment, but lack the financial buffer. Such an account could support these opportunities. Later in life, the same individual may wish to transition into a growth sector. The account could support reskilling. And at key life stages, it could support housing stability or CPF top-ups. In this way, we are not just supporting income. We are enabling mobility across the life cycle. Mr. Speaker, this can be implemented without significant new fiscal burden by integrating existing schemes, targeting support, and using capped matching with long-term investment and possibly private sector involvement. We can achieve more impact per dollar. This is an area where further study could strengthen how we design mobility-enhancing policies going forward. Mr. Speaker, let me turn now to one specific area of our tax structure, the exemption of the first $20,000 of chargeable income. This framework was introduced in Budget 2002 to cushion lower and middle-income Singaporeans as we shifted towards indirect taxation. But that was more than 2 decades ago. Since then, median incomes have more than doubled, GST has increased, and cost structures have shifted materially. Yet the threshold has remained unchanged. In real terms, its value has eroded. As incomes rise, while thresholds remain static, bracket creep occurs quietly. More lower and middle income earners enter the tax base not because they are significantly better off, but because the system has not been recalibrated. Mr. Speaker, the case here is not for tax cuts, it's for calibration. A phase adjustment, for example, to 25,000 from 25,000 or 30 to 35. Sorry, Mr. Speaker, to 25,000 or $30,000 would provide meaningful relief to lower and middle income groups. Second, help them retain more savings and potentially asset building, and restore structural fairness without undermining progressivity. This can be paired with calibrated adjustments at higher income tiers so that overall revenue sustainability is preserved. In this way, we strengthen progressivity while maintaining fiscal discipline. As our revenue mix has shifted more towards indirect taxes, it is reasonable to ensure that the lower end of our income tax structure remains appropriately calibrated. So I hope the Ministry would consider reviewing whether the 20,000 exemption threshold remains aligned with its original purpose, given more than 2 decades of structural wage growth, higher reliance on indirect taxation, and evolving cost of living realities. Mr. Speaker, next, I would like to address the retirement adequacy of Singaporeans, as I've done since the Budget 2022 debate. I'm glad and grateful for PM's continued focus on the issue. Among other things, the government supported increase in our senior CPF contribution rates, and the top-up for seniors who have lower CPF balances will boost the nest eggs of our seniors to retire and age with dignity. This must be seen alongside other moves that we have made in recent years to help Singaporeans grow their retirement funds, such as Silver Support and Match Retirement Savings Schemes, MRSS. My question is, what is the government's assessment on whether MRSS has been successful in achieving its outcome? Will the MRSS be continued or even expanded to encourage family members and even husbands to top up their elders or wives or homemaker wives' CPF balances and take advantage of dollar-for-dollar matching, and whether the government can also review the silver support qualifying thresholds as our seniors live longer and deplete their earlier resources under their conditions currently. The new and exciting announcement is a planned option for CPF members to invest their funds in a lifetime retirement investment scheme. But as CPF introduces low-cost life cycle investment products, behavioral design becomes critical. The default structure matters more than choice. If CPF members are nudged into life cycle funds, those funds must first automatically de-risk, second, be globally diversified, have strict fee caps, and include switching safeguards. So the question I have is, will the new CPF life cycle products include automatic glide path de-risking, internationally benchmarked fee caps, and behavioral safeguards? And what are the terms of reference that have already been given to the CPF board? Mr. Speaker, finally, another small but significant step we can take is to better define what retirement adequacy should look like. This is because Singaporeans see their CPF balances, but many residents that I have spoken to do not understand what adequacy means. As investment choice expands, volatility risks increases. This makes it more important for every Singaporean to be able to be clear on what is adequate for himself or herself. I recognize that there is an inherent difficulties with such a definition. Among other things, it is no longer clear at what age an average Singaporean should retire. And as human beings, we can never be sure how long more we will live after retirement. However, can CPF provide scenario-based projections, including downside stress scenarios, to strengthen confidence among Singaporeans that they can adequately provide for themselves after retirement? Mr. Speaker, sir, Budget 2026 is directionally sound. It directs fiscal discipline, it invests in long-term capability, it strengthens our social compact. Our task now is refinement to ensure that our fiscal strength translates into sustained mobility for Singaporeans, for pushing for greater start line equality, for broadening capital participation, calibrating fairness. At the same time, we must take care of Singaporeans' later years by strengthening work longevity and ensuring that seniors can retire with dignity. If we do this well through Budget 2026 and future budgets, this will not only support Singaporeans through today's pressures, it will also reinforce confidence in the Singapore model itself, a model where growth, fairness, and mobility move in tandem. Mr. Speaker, I support Budget 2026. Thank you.